everyone, welcome to our video presentation of our research study, Factors that Make Intensive Advanced English to Students Determine How Competent Teachers Are at the Western Multidisciplinary Campus of the University of El Salvador, Semester 1, 2019. First, we want to thank God for all His support and wisdom during this process. Also to our family for their emotional support, and to our teacher, Master Roxana de Trigueros. This work is presented by Freddy Peraza Barrientos, Astul Mata Godine, Stanley Oswaldo Chávez, Luis Enrique García García, Juan Enrique Chanico Escalante, and me, Elmer Ernesto Rodriguez. So, we are going to begin with chapter number 1, Statement of the Problem. In a study conducted by Shema Hamandi, 2015, he found out that students tend to criticize teachers and make a concept of themselves about the performance teachers show in the classroom. So, based on some factors, students criticize and judge teachers, and those factors can be improvisation, motivation, shown in the development of a class. So, students make a concept inside their minds and bring conclusions to the classroom, and whether it is good or not, the performance of the students is enhanced by those factors that teachers show in the classroom, right? So, by means of observation, during the year 2018, the research team found out that teachers sometimes improvise or don't show motivation, and besides, they conduct meaningless activities. For example, it was seen that teachers sometimes carried out role plays that have nothing to do with the content they are reviewing or they are teaching in the classroom. So this affects students because they answer in a survey that they want more meaningful activities such as critical thinking, reflection papers, and technology outside the classroom, not just inside the classroom. Sometimes teachers don't use the technology and the tools they have, so they improvise. They tend to do warm-up activities that do not match. So, as we got deeper in the investigation, we got 6 different questions, research questions in this case. As you can see, question number 1 is, what factors make advanced English to students determine teachers' competence at the Western Multidisciplinary Campus of the University of El Salvador, Semester 1, 2019? Second, how does improvisation make advanced English to students determine teachers' competence at the Western Multidisciplinary Campus of the University of El Salvador, Semester 1, 2019? What leads advanced English to students to state teachers' competence regarding meaningful activities such as critical thinking tasks? And we have, how does the use of technology influence intensive advanced English to students' perception of teachers' competence? And finally, how does motivation affect intensive advanced English to students' perspectives on teachers' competence? In this, we have 2 units of analysis. First, we have advanced English to students and advanced English to teachers. Also, we have some independent variables like improvisation, meaningful activities such as critical thinking tasks, the use of technology, and we have some indicators that will going to further help the research team with the investigation as the research team got deeper in the investigation, right? For example, lack of use of technology in the classroom, absence of meaningful activities. Some teachers sometimes do not develop the activities in regard to the lesson plan. So the activities in the classroom are monotonous, not extended readings, not assignment of reflection papers, and deficiency on developments of debates. Also, we got some different objectives. 1 general and 5 specific objectives. The general one is to establish the factors that make intensive advance to students Determine teachers' competence at the Western Multidisciplinary Campus of the University of El Salvador, Semester 1, 2019. And then we have 5 different specific objectives, and they are as follows. To verify if improvisation of teachers makes advanced English to students, determine teachers' competence. To corroborate if communicative strategies and use of vocabulary make intensive advanced English to students, establish teachers' competence. Also to analyze how meaningful activities such as critical thinking tasks lead intensive advanced English to students to state teachers' competence. To examine how the use of technology influences intensive advanced English to students' perception of teachers' competence. And finally, to describe how motivation affects intensive advanced English to students' perspective on teachers' competence. We established the research questions and objective, general ones, and a specific one. And besides, having observed during the year 2018, the research team got curious and made a hypothesis. Whether it is true or not, is if this was going to be proved wrong or right. So they got a hypothesis about the research problem, the target research problem they were investigating. And the hypothesis is improvisation, communicative strategies, meaningful activities, critical thinking tasks, use of vocabulary, use of technology, and motivation shown by teachers make intensive advanced English to students, determine teachers' competence at the Western Multidisciplinary Campus of the University of El Salvador, Semester 1, 2019. Having carried out an observation, the research team found out that students want to enhance their skills, their formal skills. They have expectations on themselves, but also in teachers. So the teacher found out some problems that were occurring in the classroom, right? Like improvisation of teacher, not implementation of meaningful activities such as critical thinking tasks, in which the students are enhanced their skills or performed the tasks in a better way due to the performance of the teacher toward the students. So they realized that the English language department, specifically the students from the English language department at advanced 2 level, require teachers that are prepared and well trained in the art of teaching. So, as it was happening, the research team realized that there was a necessity to investigate this, because if we provide the department with enough tools or enough recommendation and pieces of advice, they can improve, and the students as well are going to be benefited from this as they grow up as students, as critical thinkers, and as persons that will then contribute to this world to be better.
Okay, Chapter 2, Theoretical Framework. Theoretical framework is referring about students. Intensive advanced English students consider that some teachers present some problem when they are teaching, and they recognize that some teachers are incompetent. Students mention some factors which affect during the classes. Those factors are lack of enough vocabulary. During the class, some teachers don't motivate a student because they don't change the vocabulary. They use the same word during some classes. That affects student knowledge and student behavior because the class becomes monotonous. Then, the lack of absence and preparation of several teachers. There are different things which affect during the learning process. Some teachers don't present the way that they teach and they don't mention some important things which are related with the preparation of the class. And some teachers only perform the class in the same way. Another factor is the improvisation of the during the teaching. These things affect when teachers don't prepare the class. Some teachers prepare the class, but they don't show material or different activities. They only develop the class in a normal way. That is the reason why some students consider that some teachers don't prepare the class, and teacher obviously prepare the class, but they don't show the material or the handout in that things. Okay, teacher don't show evidence of learning or preparing material during the class. That is why some students consider the class is in the same routine. Another thing is that teachers don't motivate the students. In some cases, teachers don't have different activities to motivate the students. They only perform the class in a normal way. What happens when the teacher perform other activities or the teacher develop the class in the same way? A student became kind of lazy. They don't pay attention in the material. They don't pay attention in the topic, in the learning, and they consider that the class are in the same way. Another thing is that 2.1 meaningful activity such as thinking during the class. The importance of meaningful activities inside the classroom. Some teachers perform activities, but those activities are related with the topic, are related with the content, and are related with the structure, with grammar structure. What happens when the teacher don't change their activities?
The importance of meaningful activities inside the classroom. We can mention 2 points in this part, which are active learning. Active learning, which derives from two basic assumptions: that learning is by nature active endeavor, and that different people learn in a different ways. And active center, it is another concept to take into account when develop meaningful activities. The fundamental objective of this task is that students how to promote the use, elaboration, and application of academic concepts. And Himbert Chan established that some examples of the most effective learning activities: effective questioning, case study, collaborative learning, think, pair, share, debate, game and simulation, reflection paper, learn by teaching, student review section, and generate some exam questions. According to Thinking Critical 2008, critical think is to examine ideas, evaluate them against what a person already knows. Critical think helps the student to create good argument. Field 2013 mentioned that the only thing that has changed inside the classroom at the university is that all students have some laptop or tablet. Technology and resources contribute with learning process, but students take in consideration the correct use of that kind of resources to contribute during the learning process. Cowarland 2007 and 8 claims that the critical thinking includes a complex combination of skills.
The 2.2 communicative skills. There are some things that the teacher can use to communicate with a student. According to CAM, Sia U Islam, in 2017, the communicative skills can be defined the transmission of the message. That involves that the process of a student, teacher, student, and the same student, teacher. Okay, those activities become that teacher can interact with the student. The following scene is 2.3 preparation of teacher. Teacher need to prepare lesson activities. They need to prepare some activities during the class. Those activities are related with lesson plan or the activity that the teacher needs to show to the student. Lesson planning is kind of difficult and stressful activity, but that activity needs to spend some minutes or some hours for some teacher. But teacher need to be ready with that activity because students need to present and students need to demonstrate that they can perform that activities. Okay, 2.4, motivation. Lesson planning is kind of stressful because it's kind of difficult, but teacher need to develop their time and need to show their activities to a student, improve their knowledge. 2.5, technology in classroom. All learning have changed during some years. That is the reason why some teachers need to implement technology resources, and the students have to take advantage of that opportunity to improve their knowledge. And the last point is 2.6, variety of vocabulary. Teachers need to implement new words, and they have to explain to the student the correct use of that word. Okay, that is the last point. Thank you.
Chapter number 3, Methodological Design. In this chapter, the researchers are going to mention some important aspects that they used in the research. For example, the procedures they took into consideration when developing this research, the phases for planning, and the execution phase that contains the data collected, the schedule, and the budget. Regarding paradigm in design, the researchers used the quantitative paradigm. Concerning the description of the environment, the researchers found that this phenomenon, this research, was taking place in Santa Ana, in the urban area, at the Western Multidisciplinary Campus of the University of El Salvador, in the foreign language department. Also, it was observed that some classes lack of enough conditions. For example, some classrooms did not have enough desks, some classrooms were surrounded by too much noise, and some classrooms did not have enough technological devices. Units of observation. The researchers took into consideration advanced English 2 students and advanced English teachers. In regard to sampling procedure, the total population of advanced English 2 subject was made up of 71 students. But to get the target population, the researchers used the purposive sampling, and the target population was composed of 46 students. And also the researchers took into consideration that this sampling was fulfilling the requirements to be part of the sampling. Data collection procedures. In here, the researchers were going to develop two tools, which are a structured questionnaire and a structured checklist. After they created these tools and validated them, were going to administer them. For example, to administer the structured questionnaire, they wrote a letter for asking permission to the person in charge of the subject to administer the questionnaire in the classes. They were going to go to the classes, they were going to ask students to help them out. Before administering the questionnaire, they explained to the students the purpose of administering this tool and how they were going to do it. The questionnaire was made up of 15 yes/no questions. After a student finished answering the question out, the researchers were going to start checking the questionnaire so that they could avoid some misunderstanding while analyzing the data. To administer the structure checklist, the researchers also wrote a letter to the person in charge of the subject for asking for permission. They were going to attend some classes to observe teachers. And the structure checklist has some elements, for example, use of technology, motivation, improvisation, use of technology, and use of vocabulary. Now, after they finished observing, they were going to thank teachers and students. Regarding data processing, after they finish collecting the data, they were going to start analyzing and interpreting the data. They were going to use some tools such as Microsoft Office, Excel, and they ordered the information based on the objectives, and they used the indicators to have a more clear understanding of the data collected.
Operationalization of variables. The research team created a matrix for operationalizing the hypothesis. In this section, we have units of analysis, advanced English to students and advanced English to teachers. For the independent variable, we have improvisation with the indicator that teachers do not develop the classes in regard to the lessons, meaningful activities. For this, we have an indicator such as extended readings, use of vocabulary. Teachers start the class always with the same common question. Use of technology. Teachers are afraid of losing the control of the class. Motivation. The question and answer technique works all the time with the same people. Communicative strategies. Teachers sometimes scold students. For the dependent variable, we have teachers' competence. And I mentioned only one indicator, which is teachers do not use audiovisual aids inside the classroom. For the instruments, we have a questionnaire and an observation checklist. The time for it is 3 hours per week. The validation of data collection instruments. Experts in the field of the subject and the field of research at the Western Multidisciplinary Campus of the University of El Salvador will validate the research tools. The researcher team will also carry out a pilot study to measure if the instruments will work effectively. Validity and reliability. The research team elaborated two instruments, the instruments based on two main validity criteria. Phase validity. In this one, the research team went through the operationalization to see whether each of the indicators measure what it is intended to measure. Content validity. For this, it is going to be assured by means of asking some experts on the field if the questionnaires and all the instruments are going to be effective. Ethical aspects. In this part, we have a lot of ethical aspects, but I will explain only some of them. Respect. The research team agrees that any suggestion or recommendation is going to be taken into account with respect. Intellectual property. All the information gotten from different sources is going, or it is cited. Confidentiality. All the information gotten from different participants is not going to be shared without any permission from the same participants. Timeline. We have a series of activities, and we started with the research team formation and choosing the topic on August. Preliminary phase. September and October. Planning phase. October, November, and February. Execution phase. February, March, and April. Budget. We have office supplies like pens, pencils, photocopies, prints, stapler, printer cartridge with a total expense of $54.75. Services. For this we have internet, other expenses such as food, electricity, transportation. And the snacks for the final presentation with a total of $339. At the end we have expenses of $385.85.
I am going to talk about Chapter 4, which is Analysis and Interpretation data. In here, the researchers use two instruments to gather information about the topic. The instruments were a questionnaire addressed to students and a checklist addressed to teachers. And then the investigators ordered the information based on the research objectives. And then they created graphs. And the instruments were created based on the indicators that the investigators had. And after interpreting and after analyzing the graphs, they got the following results. For example, here there are two graphs. One says understandable explanations. This is taken from the questionnaire. And in here we have that most teachers do not have problems with explanations. It means that the students understand pretty well their explanations. And the other one, there is a difference because we have the one that says misunderstanding is taken from the checklist. And here the percentages are a little bit different. We have that more than the half of teachers have problems with misunderstandings. So it means that there are some misunderstandings in their classes. Then we have other two graphs. One says overused questions. This is taken from the questionnaire. And in here we have that half of the teachers use the same questions in their classes, and the other half doesn't use the same questions. And in the other graph, which is common questions, which is taken from the checklist, there is a slight difference because we have that more than the half of the teachers use the same common questions in all their classes. We have then there are other two graphs. One says meaningless activities. This is taken from the questionnaire. And in here, the percentages are the following. Or the percentages show that many teachers use meaningful activities, such as reading activities, or debates, role plays, simulations. And the other graph says simulation. And this is taken from the checklist. Here, there is a big contrast because in this graph, we have that all of the teachers do not use simulations, do not use this kind of activities according to this graph. So we have a big contrast here. Then we have written thoughts. Here this graph is taken from the questionnaire. Here we have that many teachers use this technique with their students. But in the other graph we have, which is written task, there is a big contrast because we have that 100% of teachers do not assign this kind of activity to their students. So here there is a big contrast in the two graphs. Then there are other two graphs. One says online listening sources. This is taken from the questionnaire. And we have that many teachers or most teachers do not use this kind of thing to help their students to improve in their academic process. But in the other graph, there is a difference because the other graph says online sources. This is taken from the checklist. And there is a difference because here we have that the percentage is different. Because here we have that more teachers use this activity to help students. So there is a slight difference in these two graphs. Then we have audiovisual aids. This is taken from the questionnaire. And we have that most teachers use audiovisual aids to help their students in their classes. In the other graph, which is audiovisual aids as well, and this is taken from the checklist, the percentages are a little bit different, because here we have that even though we have that more than the half of the teachers use this activity, we have a percentage that says that some teachers do not use this kind of activity. Then we have encouragement. This graph is taken from the questionnaire. And here we have that most teachers, according to this graph, we have that most teachers encourage students in their classes. And this is good for their learning process. But in the other graph, which is questions techniques, we have that according to this graph, the percentages vary. Because here we have, even though we have that more or a lot of teachers help students with these kind of activities using question techniques. Then we have motivated teachers. Here we have in this graph, which is taken from the questionnaire, most teachers are motivated in their classes. It means that they motivate students to learn more. In the other graph, which is taken from the checklist, which is minimal support, we have a different, because here we have that many teachers give minimal support to their students, but there are many teachers who do not give it to their students. According to the following graphs, this is called SCOLD, and this is taken from the questionnaire. We have that many teachers scold their students probably when they commit mistakes. But with the other graph, according to the other graph, there is a big contrast. The other graph says students' mistakes, and it says that teachers do not scold students when they commit mistakes. So here we have a big contrast between the two graphs. The other one says monotonous activities. This is taken from the questionnaire, and according to this graph, we have that most teachers do not use it, do not use monotonous activities in their classes. But in the other graph, we have a different, because the other graph says same activities. We have that most teachers use the same activities in their classes, so there is a big difference. Then we have some graphs in which the investigators got the same information in the questionnaires and in the checklist. For example, we have one graph that says pace of speech. In this graph, the results show that some teachers do not have problems with pace of speech, but some others have some problems. Then the other one says vocabulary exemplification. In here, most teachers exemplify the new vocabulary in their classes, according to this graph. Most teachers explain new words to their students. The other one says pronunciation. Most teachers pronounce new words for students so they can learn how to pronounce words or new words. The other one says review. According to this graph, most teachers provide review at the end of their classes. And finally, to conclude this, we have real situations. According to this graph, most teachers use these kind of activities in their classes that are called real situations.
To begin with, researchers found out that there are factors that make intensive advanced English students determine teachers' competence. Some of those factors are communicative strategies, use of vocabulary, motivation, technology, and some others. The use of these and the management of these factors may influence on the students' learning process. That's why it's vital for teachers to manage all of those factors. Improvisation is one of these factors, and the researchers found out that this is taking place in the University of El Salvador, Western Multidisciplinary Campus, during semester 2019. Teachers commonly use this activity or this technique when students have already finished all the activities and tasks in the lesson plan, and there is still time for more activities. The problem with this is that it may lead to meaningless tasks, and this is happening because the research team have noticed that. The second factor is communicative strategies. The researchers found out that this is a problem taking place in the classroom. For example, the pace of speech. There are some teachers that do not have the necessary pace of speech that is required in this level, advanced English 2. Another key element is the overused vocabulary. Teachers are always or sometimes using the same vocabulary to explain topics, to give instructions, and this hinders students from learning because in this way they conclude on how competent teachers are. The third factor is the implementation or the use of meaningful tasks. Researchers got in the data collected that some teachers are implementing meaningful activities such as extended readings and simulations, but some others are not implementing this. The problem here is that when a teacher does not implement, for example, a simulation activity, the student doesn't go out from the classroom. The student is always in the classroom and not in the real world. The benefit with the implementation of extended readings here is that students are getting more and more vocabulary, To continue, there is the fourth factor, which is technology. This is quite important because it plays a very crucial role in the acquisition of learning language, in this case English. Some teachers at this level are qualified to implement technology, to use technology in the classroom. Devices such as the computer, the LCD projector, the CD player, even cell phones. And some other teachers are not qualified to implement this. And this leads students to determine how competent teachers are while using these devices. The fifth element or factor is motivation. The research team found out that at the Western Multidisciplinary Campus of the University of El Salvador, there are motivated teachers that are creating an atmosphere for students to learn and to make their learning process easier. The researchers found out that the hypothesis is true. Which is the hypothesis? The hypothesis says that motivation, use of vocabulary, use of technology, meaningful activities such as critical thinking and motivated teachers make intensive advanced English 2 students determine how competent teachers are. The researchers proposed that the English department of the University of El Salvador implement a talk or a panel forum for teachers and students. In this panel forum, students will write and will say anonymous questions which teachers will explain and clarify. Why this? This will help teachers realize their weakness and strengths, and so they will increase or better the way they teach. In the English department of the University of El Salvador, teachers always lesson plan their classes. This happens in each level, from basic to advanced. So the researchers recommend that teachers always bring the lesson plan into the classroom. The researchers also suggest that teachers should have a plan B for each lesson. Why? Because sometimes students finish the lesson, finish the activities before the time expected. So what are the teachers going to do right now? So if teachers have a plan B, there is no wasted time. Teachers should exemplify and provide students with the spelling and pronunciation of new words. Why? Because the acquisition of new vocabulary is important when learning a new language. Teachers could use apps such as the Oxford Dictionary, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and other dictionaries that are in the Play Store of their smartphones. This is such an important tool because it provides with all the elements that teachers need when teaching new vocabulary. Regarding meaningful activities such as critical thinking tasks, teachers should implement oral activities because this leads students and this helps students have a better perception of things and make decisions at the moment. And this also helps students be more fluent in the way they speak. Thanks for watching this video, this research study. We hope you like it, we hope it is very useful for you, and thanks for everything.